He pushed forward, forcing himself to stay upright, even as dizziness washed over him. The forest seemed to shift around him, the trees blending into one another, forming strange shapes in the moonlight. His heartbeat thundered in his ears. Then, just as he thought he might faint, he saw a faint light ahead. A house. An old wooden house that looked abandoned, but at that moment it was the only source of hope he had. He sprinted toward it, stumbling up the creaking steps and pushing the door open. Inside, it smelled of dust and mold, with worn furniture covered by white sheets. He shut the door behind him and bolted it, leaning against the wood as he gasped for breath. The crying stopped abruptly outside. Silence settled in thick and unnatural. He searched the room frantically and found an old kerosene lamp on a table. With trembling hands, he lit it, casting a warm glow across the space. Just as he began to calm down, he noticed something carved into the wall scratches, forming words. "Don't look out the window." His throat tightened. Slowly, against every warning his instincts gave, he turned toward the window. The curtains fluttered slightly from the wind, but he hadn't opened a window. He stared at the fabric, willing it to stay still. Then a hand pressed against the other side, pale, long-fingered, nails scraping the glass lightly. His breath caught. Another hand appeared beside it. Then a face slowly pushed forward behind the thin curtain, the fabric outlining the shape of a head with long hair and a wide, unnatural smile. She whispered from outside, her voice soft, sweet, and horrifyingly close. "Arif, let me in." Arif backed away quickly, knocking over a chair as he scrambled across the room. The lamp flickered as though reacting to the presence outside. The scratching grew louder, faster, more frantic. Her fingers dragged across the window pane, leaving thin cracks. "Let me in," she repeated, her voice turning from soft to pleading, then from pleading to impatient. The house groaned under some unseen pressure, as if her presence outside was bending the very walls. Arif needed a place to hide. He rushed into the next room, a kitchen with rusted utensils and broken cabinets. The floor was covered with dust except for a single clean footprint. His blood froze. Someone else had been here recently. Or worse, someone was still inside. Before he could react, the crying started again. But this time, it wasn't outside. It was inside the house. The sound echoed down the hallway, soft and distant, slowly growing louder. Arif clamped a hand over his mouth, trying to silence his own breathing. The crying grew closer and even, trembling as though the person was dragging themselves across the floor. He peeked into the hallway. A figure crawled slowly in the darkness, hair covering its face, white dress torn and stained. The Kuntilanak was inside, but how? The windows were shut. The door was locked. She was everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Arif backed into the kitchen, looking for anything he could use as a weapon. He grabbed a rusty kitchen knife, though he doubted it would help. The crying stopped. Silence. Then, from right behind him, her whisper slid into his ear like cold metal. "Why run from me?" Arif spun around and slashed blindly with the knife. The blade passed through empty air. She was gone again. His breath came in painful gasps as he pressed his back against the old kitchen counter. His hands trembled violently. The lamp in the other room flickered, casting shadows that danced across the walls. He knew he couldn't stay in the house. Every corner felt like a trap. Every shadow contained her. He needed to escape not just from the house, but from whatever curse had drawn her to him. Summoning what little courage he had left, he crept toward the front door. The crying resumed upstairs now, louder, echoing through the wooden beams. Something heavy thudded on the floor above, followed by the unmistakable sound of feet dragging slowly across old planks. Arif froze. She was above him. The ceiling creaked. Dust fell from the cracks. Then her laughter echoed down the staircase, slow, distorted, mocking. The front door was just steps away. He reached for the lock. Suddenly, the door burst open on its own, slamming against the wall. The night air rushed in. Standing outside, directly under the pale moonlight, was the Kuntilanak. Her arms hung unnaturally low, her smile wide and cracked, her eyes fixed on him. Behind her, the palm trees swayed, though there was no wind. "I told you," she whispered, "you can't leave." Arif stumbled backward, but the staircase behind him creaked loudly. Something was coming down. He was trapped between two horrors, one outside the house, one inside. His mind raced, searching desperately for any escape route. Then he saw it a small door leading to a cellar. Without thinking, he sprinted toward the cellar door and yanked it open. A cold, damp smell rushed upward, but he didn't care. He descended quickly, closing the door behind him. The darkness swallowed him whole, but he found a corner and crouched low, trying to quiet his breathing. Above him, footsteps echoed, slow, deliberate, dragging. She was searching for him. The wooden floor creaked as her weight shifted. The crying began again, directly above the cellar door. Each sob vibrated through the wood, sliding into his bones. Arif covered his ears, but it didn't help. The cries grew sharper, twisting into shrieks that shook the walls. Suddenly, the cellar door rattled violently. Dust fell onto his shoulders, and the air turned ice cold. She whispered through the cracks, "Arif, open it." He held his breath, trying not to move. Minutes passed long, agonizing minutes. The rattling stopped. Silence followed, but it wasn't comforting. It was the silence predators used before striking. Then, unbelievably, the crying came from behind him. Slowly, painfully, he turned his head. Nothing, only darkness. But the crying grew louder, surrounding him from all sides. He couldn't tell where she was anymore. He pressed himself against the cold wall, trembling uncontrollably. A soft breeze brushed his neck, but there were no windows, no openings, just solid earth. Her voice slid into the darkness, calm and patient. "I know you're here." Arif bolted toward the stairs. But when he tried pushing the cellar door open, it wouldn't budge. Something a hand was holding it shut from above. He pounded on the door with his fists, screaming for help, though he knew no one could hear him this deep in the forest. Then the door slowly creaked open. Arif staggered back, expecting her to be standing above, but no one was there. The ground floor was completely silent, the lamp extinguished, leaving the house in total darkness. He climbed out cautiously, every muscle tense. The air felt heavier, thicker, as if the entire house was breathing slowly. He moved toward the doorway, hoping he could escape the way he came. When he reached the front entrance, he found it opened, but the forest outside was pitch black, darker than it should have been. As if the night itself had thickened, he took a hesitant step out. The frangipani scent returned in a suffocating wave. The crying began again, not from one direction, but from everywhere around him. Arif choked on fear. Then, from the corner of his eye, he saw movement, a white figure standing among the trees. He turned to run, but another figure appeared in the opposite direction. Then another and another. Dozens of women in white dresses emerged from the shadows, all with long black hair covering their faces, all of them crying softly. His knees buckled. The forest around him was filled with Kuntilanak, each one swaying, crying, or whispering something he couldn't understand. Then they all stopped at the same time. Silence fell instantly. Slowly, every single head turned toward him, and from behind him the original Kuntilanak whispered, "You should never have stopped for me." Arif collapsed to his knees, overwhelmed by terror. The figure behind him stepped forward, her presence colder than death itself. She leaned close, her breath brushing against his ear. "I waited so long," she murmured, "for someone who would hear me." Her pale hand gently touched his shoulder. He felt his strength drain instantly, as though her touch was pulling the life out of him. The circle of Pontianak around him tightened, moving closer with each passing second. Their crying rose into a horrifying chorus, grief, rage, and hunger blending into one nightmarish sound. Arif tried to speak, tried to scream, but no voice came out. The original Kuntilanak knelt beside him, lifting his chin with her long, cold fingers. She finally revealed her face, fully skin-torn, mouth slit wide, eyes hollow but burning with endless sorrow. "Now you belong to the night," she whispered. The world spun around him. She leaned in closer. Her mouth opened unnaturally wide. Bearers, vision blurred, then faded. The last thing he heard was her soft, broken whisper, "Thank you for listening." The forest returned to silence as his body went still. By morning, neither Arif nor his motorcycle was ever found. But villagers later whispered that on certain nights, if you walked through the palm forest, you could hear a new voice crying among the trees, one that sounded eerily like Arif's. They say the Kuntilanak takes the voices of those who listen to her. And now she had finally found someone who stopped for her. The forest, once just a quiet part of the village, became a place no one dared to cross at night, especially when they smelled frangipani in the air.